Hello and welcome to ETBFSI. This is Ishan Shah and you are watching FinTech Diary. Today I have with me Riju Datta from Cashfree. Many thanks for joining in, Riju.
Thanks, Seshan, for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So, Riju, the payments ecosystem has evolved significantly. The volume and the value of digital transactions have been going up significantly. We have seen, particularly in last 1 year, due to the pandemic-induced lockdowns, people have started transacting online, and even merchants have started accepting payments online. So overall, in this growing payments ecosystem, how is cash free placed? Across different products and services, different lines, different plays of payment mechanism. So just wanted to understand your perspective on how cash free is placed into this payment ecosystem.
Got it. So at an overall level, we cash free is, we work with over 1 lakh businesses and help them both collect money and disburse money. But from an overall perspective, we can say post pandemic, we have seen a widespread movement of businesses towards online payments. So the number of signups have, more than doubled over the last year. And in fact, all our numbers in terms of transaction volume, a number of transactions processed, number of merchants onboarded, and revenue, all of them have grown by more than 100% over the last 12 months. So in that way, the pandemic has positively impacted the industry, I would say. At a cash free level, we have seen similar kind of growth across all of our product lines. We do online payment collections, we do disbursements, there is cross border payments, right? And there's subscription payments, contactless offline payments, right? So all of them have kind of witnessed a similar um, set a similar pattern of growth over the last 12 months, I would say.
Out of all of these, any specific angle or any specific segment where there you have witnessed a lot of search? It could be online merchants or anything specific. And with even online merchants, like the onboarding time, how has that evolved in the last 1 year, or before that, how it used to happen in that sense?
Yeah, so when the pandemic kicked in, I think it became a matter of a business continuity for a lot of businesses. Even if they had some online presence, maybe payments were not as seamless, or synchronous there. So we did, see a very high volume, and we were kind of stretched beyond our limits in the initial 3-4 months, definitely. Right. As far as onboarding timelines go, we try to onboard within 24 hours, right? So same day onboarding is what we aspire to deliver, and that has more or less been maintained across, right? And in terms of growth, we have now become amongst the top 5 online payment processors in the country, right? We process almost $20 billion of payments in a year, right? And we see that number. Even this year we would want to. We expect to grow around 200%. Even though there's a second wave, right? Things have been hit. So both collections, disbursements, both, I think, in disbursements we are the market leader, I would say,
Yeah.
right? To give you numbers, I think, we do API banking, which is initiating banking transfers via an API, which helps internet companies, integrate bank transfers into their product. They don't need to log into their, business bank accounts to process a bank transfer. And this kind of automation allows them to process a very large volume of bank transfers automatically and at very high scale, right? Like something like 60,000 transactions in a minute also if needed, right? So we are the leaders in API banking in the country, and we do more than 50% of all the API banking transactions in the country. So as of today, if I were to give you a number on API banking, roughly 5% of all the bank transfers in the country are via APIs, initiated via an API request, and of that we do around 50% of that, more than 50% of that, right? Which is larger than quite a lot of banks as well. And we expect this as a trend, like this 5%. We expect API banking transfers to grow more than 30-35% at least over the next 5 years, as we have more internet or technology businesses coming in, right? And they would want to have an automated banking process or a tech driven banking process in place, right? So that's a major shift that we see.
So across most of your products, like even you are bullish on your products which are for internet companies or e-commerce websites. So in the offline space, do you intend to have a presence? And if you have an existing presence, what kind of positioning and presence you want to strengthen in the offline space?
Got it. So I think offline, again, going back to the previous question also, right? The segments that we saw, like coming online was a lot of these big retailers, I think, who felt a need to have a strong online payment processing channel, right? A lot of these online processors have now tried to set up their own websites, right? And which is why you also see the emergence of a lot of e-commerce enablers, right? Not just the Shopify's, right? There are a lot of India specific e-commerce enablers that are coming up, and we have, tied up with a lot of them, right? Both in terms of even in logistics also, we have a lot of e-commerce enablers, not just, like website builders. So for us, I mean, it is important to help these offline players have a top-notch online payment processing system, which could be collecting payments online, processing refunds faster, processing refunds for cash on delivery orders, and helping even, reduce the number of cash on delivery orders by converting them into prepaid orders, right? So as high a percentage of digital payments and refund processing as we can get. So that's the first job, I think. And then apart from that, definitely offline payment processing is there. Like we have QR codes, we have contactless, right? And then we have kind of a few merchants who kind of work with that with us on those product lines. And there are plans to expand those and take it out to offline retail, right? And retail could be both large brands and a lot of small and medium-sized retailers as well.
That's an interesting point where you have an offline and online presence as well. On the ecosystem partnerships, we have seen that a lot of partnerships have been evolving in the payment space. What is the partnership strategy at Cashfree, both on the banking side as well as on the e-commerce and the offline merchant side? How do you come out with the specific nitty-gritties and different partnership selection strategies?
Yeah, so I think banks are also looking to partners with fintech. I think that is, and I mean, when we started 5 years back and as of now, right, I think banks are much more enthusiastic to partner with fintechs, right? So we have partnered with almost all the leading banks of the country, and we work with them across product lines. I mean, we work with online collections, disbursements, account verification, cross-border remittances as well. Right. So, I mean, our partnership stretches across the banks. I mean, there are two parts where we kind of build our technology on top of the banks. Also, we help offer our services to the customers of the banks, right? Banks have a lot of customers that are kind of there. So that is one. So that is the banking integrations, right? The idea is to kind of have a reliable product that can handle a very high volume of transactions successfully, and also the onboarding is very easy. So that's the banking side of it. E-commerce, as there is definite rise in the number of e-commerce brands. I mean, there are a lot of D2C brands, direct to consumer brands also these days, right? I mean, yeah. So the idea is to partner with e-commerce enablers. We work with a lot of them, which we can kind of keep announcing from time to time, right? And then that I think has increased the overall number of e-commerce transaction processing also on our platform, as a percentage of the total transactions. Right, so that's something that has also happened over the top, over the last 12 months, and especially because travel, went down, right? So e-commerce has increased as a percentage.
Okay. From a commercial perspective, how are these partnerships with e-commerce companies looking like? Like, what kind of revenues you have been driving from these partnerships specifically?
I mean, it is kind of proportionate. It's it's a transaction fee that we charge, and we make a small fraction of that. Typically, the transaction fee is in the range of 1.75% to 3%, depending on which payment mode is used to pay, right? So I mean, not a lot of difference in terms of the revenue model. It's just a percentage of our overall transactions, and we're trying to just grow that much faster than we can. So partnerships kind of gives you a boost in terms of faster acceleration of your transaction volume, right? Because you get multiple onboarding of merchants at one go. So that helps.
Okay. You have also been pushing a lot on banking as a service model. A lot of fintechs and even banks have, dedicated teams set up for this particular model. What is the idea at Cashfree when it comes to banking as a service model? What is the strategy and how are you pushing it across?
So banking as a service is an extension of, payments, which is one important banking service and something that we have specialized in over the last 5 or 6 years. So the idea is there are a lot of financial services companies and non-financial services companies as well who want to add banking or other financial services into their product. And how do you kind of enable them to build this product very quickly and enable to handle scale and also handle the security aspect of it, right? Like for example, there could be the what permissions can they access onto a bank account, or what are the banking functions that the bank would also want to open up to them. I think so BaaS will kind of help these internet businesses connect with the banks, with multiple banks via an intermediary, right? And then able to access and then the banks in turn would be able to kind of control what are the permissions or functions that they're able to expose to each intermediary, each internet company via the intermediary, which is us, right? So that's where a BaaS product or service comes into play, right? Yeah, and I think we've kind of started pilots with a set of early merchants, and I think there's going to be some traction, I think, on that going soon, right? So we're going to make announcements.
Like, when do you intend to go live with this product?
We already have integrations pilots running with a set of customers. I think a larger launch is expected later next month. I think we're almost towards the end of this month. Yeah, so I think that's next month. I think we can expect something in June.
Okay. Like, as the payment system has been evolving, the regulations have also been, catching up. While it definitely, there are frictions in the ecosystem as well, with respect to a lot of different issues like recurring transactions, storage norms, and all of that stuff. How do you see the frictions in the existing ecosystem, and what more can be done in that sense?
Yeah, I think there have been, I mean, if you look at the last 12 months, I mean, the amount of regulations that have come into effect or have been discussed, have been in discussion, has been much more than, over the last 5-6 years. And in a way that is good, because I think the regulator is taking cognizance of, digital payments very, like there's a lot of scrutiny because now digital payments have become very mainstream. So that is good. I think the regulators always have the best interests of the consumer in mind. I think that is one thing that we really have to give it to them, and especially the introduction of the new PAPG guidelines. I think that was also a very good step, and I think that made the functioning of a payment aggregator very well defined, right? These are the do's and these are the don'ts, and also kind of really expanded the scope of what a payment aggregator could do. So it was a definitely great improvement, right? So definitely there are certain compliance changes or changes that need to be made by the entities that are governed by the regulator. I think, and those are being done. I think banks in particular, I guess, right? So I think the best interests of the consumers have been kept in mind at the end of the day, and it's good that the regulator is kind of taking cognizance of digital payments, right? So yeah.
Okay. So like, as you grow, I mean, what kind of investments at particularly Cashpay are happening in the technology and talent space? Because much more heavy investments would have to go if you have to keep your payment volumes and value keep on growing and growing. So just wanted to understand what kind of investments are happening on that particular phase with technology and talent both.
Yeah, I think kind of talent kind of drives technology in a way, right? I mean, for us, hiring engineers is kind of one of the key priorities, I think, of drive, and that is, I think, the case for a lot of internet companies, right? I mean, we are definitely we have been hiring aggressively developers and engineers over the last 12-24 months, right? And I think in terms of investments in technology, I think our priority is to enable high volume or high scale of transactions, right? So I mean, if a business were to kind of, let's say, start off and want to process something like, let's say, 1 lakh payments in a minute, right, which is something that we have enabled, right, or 600 transactions per second, right? So that is the kind of scale that we kind of enable a lot of the businesses to do, and we kind of do this at reliably and at very high success rate, right? And payments infrastructure, ensuring that payments don't fail at very high processing volume, is, I think, one of our priorities. And I think you might have, and that is kind of one of the major reasons, like of payment failure. So whenever you see payment fail, whether it be at the end of the bank or the intermediary or the any of the acquirers, it's usually that the number of payment requests that are going through is beyond the capacity of the systems in place. So our job is to ensure, I know that's the big engineering challenge. So our job is to ensure that we're able to handle any volume of payment requests. And then we have kind of delivered that, right? We have processed more than 80,000 payouts per minute for our customers. We have processed 600 transactions per second for our customers, right? So that's the kind of investment we try to do.
Going ahead, what are your plans in the coming months specifically? Any more ecosystem partnerships you're looking at, any or more strategic partnerships on the anvil in terms of faster payment processes, better service to customers on both merchant and end user side as well?
Yeah, I think growth is of definitely primary importance for us. So in increasing the number of merchants on our platform, increasing the number of payments being processed by us in absolute numbers, and the rupee value. I mean, we would want to grow by 200% in this financial year. That is the plan, I think, and we're on track as of now. And apart from that, I think in terms of products or markets, I mean, we've focused on cross-border. I think cross-border transactions, because I mean, export is one of the bigger kind of plays for like the development of the economy, right? So how do we help Indian exporters collect payments from outside, right? Making that easier, I think. So that is one of the key focus areas. I mean, working on cross-border transfers, making them faster, making them cheaper, helping with the filings and the regulations and the taxations involved. So that is something that we are working on, right? We're exploring markets which are kind of similar to India, like foreign markets, where our product line can be easily replicated, and we can acquire similar merchants, right? So geographical expansion into other markets is also something that we've been working on since for a while, and I think we can announce that in some point of time. And maybe a few strategic acquisitions, to bolster our product suite, right? So that is also, I think, something that we're thinking of.
What kind of strategic acquisitions you would be looking at, particularly in particular areas of payment pieces?
Something that bolsters our payment processing capabilities, right? Like makes us a better payment processor in terms of scale of reliability of transactions, right? Higher success rates, more reliable uptimes, right? So that kind of setup is what we're looking at.
So it's more like on your payment infrastructure side, or
it's an infrastructure investment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. And a lot of other payment specific players in this space have creating different models. Some are into neo-banking sort of a placement. Some have started lending as well. A whole suite of services are being offered. How is it like for you? Like, you would want to keep payments only as a core centerpiece and go ahead with this only, or eventually down the line sometime you would also want to evolve into this kind of play?
So then the idea of our BaaS product, which you talked about, right, is to enable someone to build banking or neo-banking, as the term is, right, much faster. So we want to be an enabler of neobanks, not be a neobank ourselves, right? And we want an existing bank to become a neobank. We want existing e-commerce platform to become a neobank, right? Or or even a consumer app to become a neobank, right? So how do we do that is kind of the question, right? So that's something we are trying to solve.
Thank you so much, Riju, for joining in. Those were some really great insights. Really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ishan. Nice being here.